when did you start thinking about your mindset, mental toughness?
I don't know if I ever really did. I mean, I would just add life in general. I mean, I don't care who you are or what you do or what station in life you start out at or work your way through. But people have issues and people have problems. It's, I have been fortunate enough to meet people who have net worths that I don't understand. Like, what do you mean you have $50 billion? But their life isn't devoid of problems. Mm-hmm. And I've met people who have no money, who are probably a paycheck away from homelessness, that seem to be happier than the billionaires. Mm-hmm. So they have their own set of problems to work through as well. And everything in between that, let's say those are the two edge cases of what's possible from an economic perspective. Entrepreneurs have problems. I don't consider myself to be an entrepreneur. Military people have problems. Religious people have problems. Mm-hmm. Everybody does, and I think that is lost. I think that and I don't know why it's lost, but I think that it is not uncommon for people to just look at another cohort of people. And by another cohort, what I mean is by some definition in their own mind, a category of person that they feel like they don't fit into. And maybe that's an economic thing or a socioeconomic, whatever it may be, and say the grass is greener on the other side. And I just don't think it is. I think people would be better off accepting what at least I consider the fact to be is that life is supposed to be full of problems, and it can kind of be part of the journey if you just accept that that's going to happen, because then you can have fun trying to figure out the solution. And not all problems have fun solutions. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not trying to say that the family that wakes up and their child is diagnosed with leukemia, that's not a fun problem. That's not what I'm talking about. That's kind of an edge case too. Yeah. From a statistical perspective. And so I don't think we should paint the norm with the anomaly. But problems are good. And problems, at least the severe ones that I have faced in my own personal life, given enough distance from them, I can see the value that they brought to my life. Not while I was going through it, not when you're surviving a tragedy or a struggle. Like, I get it. You're not going to see the greater life lesson. And, I wish somebody would give me a fortune cookie so I could understand this. Like, yeah. Just keep going. And it's like, just go fuck yourself. Problems are problems. I don't think I have spent a lot of time thinking about mental toughness in myself. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'll break down for you what I think is probably the most effective tool that I have ever received. It's not something of my creation. It's a lesson that I learned when I was young, but it was reinforced and taught actually when I was in the military. And it has served me well with every problem I've ever faced, to include, I've already recorded my episode that's going to come out on Friday for my own personal podcast. And the guy wrote into me and, like, for the first time, his very weird email opens with, "I hate you." I was like, I'm reading this thing.
Yeah, you got to read that one.
I'm like, Roger that. He's like, "You and so many other podcasters talk about dealing with alcoholism like it's easy, and it's not." And I opened with, "Yeah, no shit, dude. I never said that it was."
Yeah.
But knowing what you need to do and then actually doing that thing, that's the hard part. Like, but he started talking about, he's having some issues at work. And for the first time, he's at a place where he might be forcefully ejected from the career that it's the only thing he's ever thought about. He's like standing in front of this abyss, like, shit, what do I do? I was thinking back, I'm like, I've had like 3 of those in my life. And now that I have some distance, the closest one being the surgery I just had. But even in the hospital room, I'm like, okay, I need to change the way I think about this. And I can get to what I've changed, but it was how I view my own health and how I want to prioritize it, right? Like, I haven't been paying haven't been paying as much attention as I should be. I haven't been prioritizing it. And like, if this isn't a wake up call, even though it wasn't directly tied to anything that I was doing, then nothing is. Mm-hmm. But how do you make that distance from the event that's going to teach you that lesson? And it's, God, as simple as it sounds, you have to chunk the problems that you encounter into pieces you can digest. And, the saying of how do you eat a whale or how do you eat an elephant, it is so old and so incredibly true. It's one bite at a time. You're going to choke on either of them. And I distinctly remember I grew up the son of a masonry contractor. And for 7 years, I worked for him. And he never let me build anything. I was responsible for bringing the building supplies to him. And I actually am not even sure I would have been good at building it. But we lived in Santa Cruz, and the earthquake in 1989, the San Andreas Fault, just nuked a lot of things in the masonry world. Concretes, specifically what my dad focused on for years was fireplaces, which were most often exteriorly made with a brick called a McNear Common, which is a red brick. You'd recognize it instantly. It's super common in the construction world. And they have these things called tongs. And at least when I was working for my dad, you could carry 6 at a time. But I was 11. So I think the first time I ever brought my dad bricks, I was carrying like 3. And I built to being able to carry 1 tong with 2 hands. And then eventually, God, I'm so happy an OSHA safety observer never came, because I'm like 2-handed tongs going up a ladder, not tied into anything on a steeply pitched roof.
And you're a kid.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God. My dad would go to prison for the shit that he used to have me do. And I look back, I'm like, that was awesome. Like at the age of 12, here's a jackhammer. Go stand on top of that fireplace and just start shaving it off into the grass. And don't tell your mom that I let you do this, and I'm not going to tie you off. I'm like, yeah, okay. You'd go to prison now if you did that with a kid. Some of these jobs are huge. And we're talking 3-4 story fireplaces. And a lot of the times it's a really wide base that slowly tapers up. And it's an art form for sure. Like people really shit on the trades, and they absolutely should. You can learn a lot of life lessons. And you'll feed your family for life if you know how to do a trade.
Yep.
So the great days were when the delivery truck could get the forklift right next to where I was going to take the bricks a short distance. I remember this one job. They dropped off 6 pallets of McNear Commons, and a pallet is 500 bricks. And at the age of 11, you are presented with the thought that there's no way anybody can get through this.
Too much.
I distinctly remember my dad saying, don't look at the 6 pallets. Don't even look at this pallet. Just keep bringing me bricks. And so that, as easy as that sounds, and it's not necessarily easy to do, because all you ever really want to do is like, holy shit, I've been moving these for hours. There's still 5.5 pallets. But I never really cared beyond that. And it's something that I constantly reinforced to myself. And I'm sure that job was probably in 1990. I don't remember that job, like the specifics of the exact fireplace or the house or even where it was in Santa Cruz. But I remember that lesson because I used that lesson every day since then.
Yeah.
So I get into buds, and again, that was like my education in that lesson. It's not like, hey, write this down, go sauna, cold plunge, and journal, and and then post about it so everybody knows that you're doing that. And really,
it was hands on.
It was really, really think about what I just said. He was like, no, dipshit, just bring me bricks.